We're talking about death. We're all going to meet this. So we need to all get ready and understand that that is going to happen. We just don't know when.
Hey, it's Don Rumer-Rivera. Welcome back. And today we have an amazing guest. But before we get to our guest, I'm going to read a quote that should lead us directly into the topic. And here we go. The honesty and grace of the years of life that are ending is the real measure of how we die. It is not in the last weeks or days that we compose the message that will be remembered, but in all of the decades that preceded them. Who has lived in dignity dies in dignity. With that said, I'd like to introduce Bonnie Morris and let her tell you what she does and how she came about it. Go ahead, Bonnie. Welcome in.
Thank you. My job, or my title now, is a certified end-of-life doula. Now, I'm sure people have heard of doulas, but when they hear the name, they think of birth, because a doula will help a mother have a child. What I do is on the other end. I help somebody pass away with dignity, come to peace with everything. I do a lot of teaching with the family, helping them learn the process and trying to take away the fear, because in our country especially, there is a lot of fear around death. And even the word death scares people. And, you know, we're all going to go through it, so we might as well come to terms with that. How I started this, I spent my career in nursing at the end of life. And I can't tell you how many people that I would be with, whether it was in a nursing home or in a hospital, that I would try to help them learn that it's going to be a peaceful thing if they could just take a deep breath and calm down, because people get very scared. And it's also helpful helping the family come to terms and to have them all be on the same page. And sometimes that's not easy, because families, as we all know, have dysfunction. And so, and I can give examples how in the hospital one time in the ICU, we had a patient who was trying to pass. Family was not on board. And this man had every sign that we could let him go. He was ready to go. Family wasn't. He hung around for weeks until we finally got all the family together and had them start talking about memories they had with Dad. And suddenly they got all on the same page of memories, and he went peacefully. So it's about more than just dying. It's about teaching everybody the process so that they don't freak out when mom is breathing differently, or mom's not answering, or for whatever reason, fear sets in. And many people have just called 911, and we're like, they can't do anything. So this is not something that is hospice. There are a few hospices that will employ a doula, but the doulas are not covered under insurance. So it is a separate thing. And with hospice, then they eat that cost.
So with your service, with the service, how is it different from what, say, a hospice nurse does? Explain what you provide, and how you work with the family in comparison. So should somebody so somebody can understand that hospice alone is good, but there's one step further, And that's your involvement. Explain how your involvement, again, is different than hospice so people understand clearly what that is.
Sure. A hospice nurse, and this doesn't take anything away from hospice, we work in
Mhm.
conjunct. Hospice nurse will come in and they will spend some time with the patient, but they're more concerned about the health, what's going on with medications, you know, are they taking away the pain, whatever is concerning. And then they have to go. They don't have a lot of time to spend with each patient. There, if you've got 12 people to see in one day, you're not going to be there very long. So what I do is I come in and I spend hours with the patient, with the family. It's up to how long they want my service, but I come in and I kind of assess what's going on. Who is playing what role? Who is the support? Who is the sole caregiver? Do they have the support they need? Do they have the respite care so that they can take a break? Sometimes I'm the respite care and I come in and say, okay, go take, a couple hours, and they will employ me to sit and help. I do not ever touch medications. That's a licensing issue. I'm not licensed anymore. I was a registered nurse with a bachelor's in nursing, but I gave up my license when I retired. I didn't want to go back. I like this. I'm able to get to know the patient, to see where they are, and to meet them at their level. If they are scared, I can come to that and try to help them learn whatever it is they're scared of.
So
Sometimes,
would it be fair? Would it be fair to say that then you're kind of helping to educate at a time when, again, when a topic is a very touchy topic and sensitive because it's extremely sensitive because everybody knows what's coming anyway. So your role is not only to educate but to help bring along their processes of thought to understand that though we may not want the end to come, the end is coming. So again, it's like helping them navigate their emotions, their feelings, all these other things that go along with it, but helping them also to take an objective stance and understanding that ultimately we know where this will end up, and so be prepared for that as well. Is that is that kind of what I'm hearing?
yes, to allow them to come to terms with, we're talking about death. We're all going to meet this, but today or right now it's mom or dad's passing. So we need to all get ready and understand that that is going to happen. We just don't know when. And to understand the biological process so that they understand that when mom's not hungry or doesn't want to drink anything, that's okay. The body is shutting down. It doesn't need energy. It doesn't need fluid. And what's going to happen? Yes, they're no longer going to use the bathroom. Those processes that stop. And sometimes they stop gradually, sometimes very quickly. Depends on what's going on. And it helps them to understand that so that they don't freak out, because that's what happens. Mom's breathing differently. Yes, that's part of the process. So we talk about all of that before they get there.
So how soon or how late, depending on how you're marking time, how soon or how late do you come into the picture, and when is it more beneficial? Is it when maybe the patient still has cognitive abilities and then you can work with them, helping them to understand the transition and the family? Or where is it best serving everybody in the stage for you to come in?
The earlier the better. I know people who have hired their death doula before they're even diagnosed with anything. They just want to make sure they know that person. Sometimes we don't come in until very late, because it's not a well-known role here in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Other countries, they've been doing it for ages. It's just part of the family. Somebody, Aunt Lucy is always the one that helps somebody pass away. It's just, that's how it is in other countries. In our country, like I said, we've made the subject of death taboo. So we're fighting against that. And sometimes patients don't get diagnosed until very late in the process.
That's true. That's true.
So, and they come home and they might only be there a day or two.
Yeah. Especially with some diseases, I've experienced where some diseases you think you have more time, and then you're caught up short, and you're thinking, "Wow, I thought for sure that this was going to, I could postpone this." And so it does seem to make sense that if they get if they get you involved, they bring you into the picture sooner, that occurrence of is not going to be so detrimental, because again, with you being there earlier, they're already prepared what is coming, and should, even if that timeline speeds up for them, with your educating them in advance, them and the family should at least ready and say, okay, I understand this. And so I can see how that makes sense.
Yes, and it makes it easier. And oftentimes, if that's occurred and they're okay with everything, it will happen sooner.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're at peace. They've made their peace. They've talked to everybody. Everyone is different. Okay, there's not a pat. This is how it is. I also work with the families with papers.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes, do you have your will done? Do you have a living proxy?
Can you explain what that is for people who may not understand that concept?
A living will is when I come in, say it's my living will. I write down exactly what I will allow. Okay. So I'm okay with no CPR. I'm okay with no drugs. If I'm going to pass away, leave me alone. Give me comfort care only.
Mm-hmm.
Some people aren't okay with it. They want it all. Mm-hmm. That's okay. Just write it down.
Yeah.
Because you want your wishes held. And if that's the case, they will be held.
So theoretically, I would also think then that if you have an attorney and you're working, not you specifically, the person who has an estate or person who has worked to do a will, a trust, or any of those things, so therefore that they have planned their end of life already, not planned for it, not planned it, but planned for it, and so they have their power of attorney and their power of attorney for healthcare, all the other requirements. I guess then for an estate attorney, it would be good to have your information. The family should provide your information so the state attorney can bring you into those documents as well, and to make sure that that's wrapped up as part of the deal too. So therefore that the attorney has ensured that you are given enough access and authorization should you be in a hospital situation where where the hospital needs to have authority that you can come into the room and that kind of stuff. Because I'm guessing there are times where you'll be in a hospital setting and not necessarily in a hospice home setting. Is that correct?
True. If I get called in early enough, and that involves getting to know doctors, getting to know hospitals, for them to understand what I do. And that's difficult.
Yeah.
A lot of it goes word of mouth.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But yeah, I can get called into the hospital. I don't necessarily need to be on any paperwork, except my contract with the family.
Yeah. But isn't there something about authorization to enter a room or whatever, or granted access to somebody, that kind of thing? Because this is not really a visitation situation. This is more of a service, or is that not a problem?
It is a service. Visitation, I don't know that it would be a problem with that, because I'm called in by the family, or
Yeah.
the doctor has talked to them and said, this is what I think you need, or I'd like for you to meet this and,
Right.
see what can be done to help you.
Yeah.
Many times it can be somebody who doesn't have family.
Yeah.
And they would like somebody with them.
Oh, I didn't think about that. That would be so comforting to have somebody there,
Yeah. And, I can't be there 24/7.
Right.
Nobody could afford that.
Right.
But, if I have indications, I can hold a vigil. I can be there. It is a paid service, though. And so, sometimes you can't afford all of that.
Yeah.
So we pick and choose what's best.
Exactly. Kind of like life, go to the grocery store. You look at the different meats. I can afford the chicken. I can't afford the filet mignon.
Exactly.
You have to make choices, but sometimes you buy the filet mignon because you'll figure it out otherwise. But
and different doulas are different prices if
Right,
you
right.
want to get down to the dollars and cents of it.
Yeah.
Depending on experience.
Exactly.
Many times it's just a layman coming in and learning what is on the certification.
Right.
I came on the other end since I was a nurse already. That makes me a little more expensive than somebody else. Paying for what I know.
And again, there's a long, arduous process of education, learning, and testing that goes into getting certified. This is not like you go online and you type in a few things and get something. This is they explain to people how this is again, because I think that sometimes we don't understand in today's society, everything's immediate. And people want everything. And so it's a lot of work to become certified to do this work. And the cool part is by you being a nurse, you're bringing that scientific background with healthcare in general, which is wonderful. So again, you have that extended kind of icing on the cake already, but can you explain and help people understand how much work it takes to become this? And so this isn't a whim. When you wanted to do this, you chose to do this, and then you put that work in, and it's not, it's a labor of love for you and not just a career.
True. Yeah. I've had enough careers. That's okay. The problem with answering your question is there is no regulation with this, like there is with nursing or being a doctor or a therapist or whatever. So there is nothing that says, okay, you have to do this, 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 and this. And okay, you're a school, you need to do this to be accredited. That's not there. So there are a ton of places that you can go and be certified. Sometimes it could be just a matter of printing a paper, unfortunately. I spent a lot of time choosing where I was going to do this. And yes, it took a long time, only because I had to go through all their process. I did it a lot faster than somebody learning from square one.
Right.
But I couldn't just test out, so to speak. I had to go through every module, chapter, whatever, and be able to take all their tests, so to speak. And then at the end, take a certification test. But it is not like a nursing exam. It is online usually. Some of them can be in person, but I haven't found too many of those. And of course, it costs money, like any education. And I guess for some, that depends on where you go.
So I guess that it's a fair statement then to say, folks, when you are looking for someone to fulfill this role, do your homework as well and make sure that you're looking for somebody who has experience, has criteria, has fulfilled the criteria, the educational requirements that you would hope that they would have. And again, so folks need to do their research and find somebody like Bonnie who has been in the trenches and understands what it is and truly embraces this. And again, look at their resume, look at what the background is, look at what the certification they went through, who certified them, and how that took place, and so forth. Because it's like anything else. You're buyer beware. Make sure that it's like choosing a real estate agent or choosing a lawyer, choosing a doctor. Somebody can throw up a sign. The question is, are they because you have a name or because you have a sign does not mean you are really good at what you do. So another thing I would suggest is and I think Bonnie would probably support this, is that, to have the conversation, make sure they understand and they align with you. Because if you notice right here with Bonnie, when she's talking, if you talk to her, she knows what she's talking about. You can hear it, you can feel it, you can see it as it radiates through the screen. And so, and that's what you want. You want to make sure you have the connection. Other things that they should look out for, Bonnie, when they're looking for somebody to do the service, things that maybe should give them a security or a confidence, or things that should maybe ring a bell and say, maybe that's not the person for me. What is it? How would you say, find somebody that aligns with you? What would you advise?
Well, a lot of it is personality. Do you meld? Are you comfortable? Can you tell them your secrets, so to speak? Because those will come out and you have to feel comfortable. Do you have the same, you don't have to have the same belief spiritually. All I need is to know what it is you value, because I will hold up yours. I'm not going to impose mine.
Could you repeat that? Because I think that is so important for this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
That's key right there, in my opinion, because again, you're not dictating to them your spiritual beliefs. Again, you are saying, I'm here to support you and yours.
Right.
I love that. That's
exactly.
That's amazing.
And to try to get the whole family on. Now, when they're looking for somebody, not everybody is certified. It could be, somebody's aunt, like I said, Aunt Lucy, who has been doing this since she was young. And, so she knows the process. She can tell you what's going to happen. So it doesn't mean you have to have a nurse or a certified doula. You just want to get along well. You want to feel comfortable, because, I'm in the house with the person, sometimes with other people around, sometimes not. There are so many variables, but I think number one is, do you get along? Do you feel like you can trust this person? Are you comfortable with their knowledge? It's like choosing anything. If there's a clash, try to find somebody else. You can look, if you want a certification, you can look at, there are a couple places that you can get online, and you'll find like a book of certified, and with locations, who's local. I can also do this online, where the only difficult part of that is I'm not able to really see if safety's a problem. One of the things I look for is are there safety issues? Is there a throw rug here that keeps getting gathered up and patient can trip over? That kind of thing. I look to make sure the pain is controlled. I will never gift medication, but I can also relay, hey, so-and-so's not getting enough pain meds. She is always in pain, but she's afraid. So we need to educate a little more about pain medication.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe the daughter is there to care sometimes, and she's scared to give the medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Well, family is the one that will give it. It's okay. So we need to teach her more about the medication and what it's for, and how to give it.
Fantastic. So Bonnie, if I were to say I found out that, a parent is dying, and I have had not, let's say this is the first of my parents to die, and I have no experience in death and dying, and then I heard about your service, and I call up and say, Miss Morris, I would like to have a conversation with you. Walk me through the process from when we first connect to then, like, a first meeting. What is it that what would I expect? Help me to understand what to expect for at least the phone call and and through the first meeting. What is it that I would get from you to help me start this process?
Well, first of all, it's just a conversation on a phone. And for my practice, the initial consult is not going to cost you anything. I'm not going to charge you anything until we've got a contract in place. So the consult is free. I can come out to your home. We can talk about this. It's all about how you would like to see your end of life be.
Mm-hmm.
And what are your beliefs? What is it you want upheld? First meeting, I just come into the home and we just talk. But at the same time, I'm looking for, is safety a problem? Is there, like I said, are there drugs in the way? Is there a problem with that? I ask about medications and pain control. I don't ever touch them. I can educate about them, but I will never change anything. That's a nursing issue.
Now, at that first meeting, is it the person who is facing the end of life who sets it up, or could it be a family member, again, having the authority through the person? How does that
It could
work?
be a family member, and it doesn't have to have the authorization, because I'm not a legal professional.
Right.
Okay. So if it's Sally, the daughter, coming in, but maybe John Doe, the son, is in another state and he's the proxy for healthcare. Well, this is already a process that's in motion. This person is going to die.
Yeah.
And so Sally has brought me in. And so we have a conversation and bring into that conversation the person who I will be helping. I help the whole family, but I need to meet the patient.
Right. Yeah. Super. And if again, even if, so say a situation happens where a patient is in a car accident, or they have some other reason why they are no longer cognizant. Okay. And so again, they are comatose or whatever else. I would think that your service would probably be maybe even more valuable in that situation, because the family can't communicate with the person, and therefore you can help the family better understand, since the patient can't have the conversation, the process. Am I right in that assumption, or
well, there are some differences in the scenario that you just described. The chances are that person's in the hospital. They're not going to come out of the hospital.
Right.
Yes, I can be brought in, but basically the staff there should be doing everything I would be doing. So I can't.
But you could help the family help them understand the processes and understand what's coming in, and so they can prepare themselves mentally for that passing. Because again, sometimes when it happens that fast, it's I would think that, it's, again, you have somebody who's completely healthy, and all of a sudden you get a phone call, and that health is now in peril, if not pretty much on the way out the door. The family has to quickly come up to speed to the fact of dealing with all this. Do you see what I'm saying?
A scenario for that would be somebody's just diagnosed. They've been not feeling well, and they finally get to the doctor, and they're diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Pancreatic cancer takes people quickly.
Yes.
There are a few who get to live longer, but generally speaking, it's not very long. So we have to get the family on board. We have to learn what the patient wants. Where do they want to be? Do they want to be in their bedroom? Do they want to be in the living room? Do they want a lot of people around them, or maybe only a few at a time? Do they want the area quiet? We're talking about when they are actually going to pass, when they can no longer communicate. What is it they would like? Do they want candles lit? Do they want aromatherapy? Do they want music on? What kind of music do they like? There's all kinds of things that we learn that they will tell me, and I will then uphold that.
Super. And then again, all of this, when you after you've made your initial contact and then you had your initial consult, if they then decide, okay, I want to move forward with this, I want this to we want to put this into action, then the next step would be, what would that next step be? I can't begin to understand. So tell me, what would that
The
next
next
step
step
be?
to that is that we sit down and go over a contract, because I am a contracted service.
Mm-hmm.
So we talk about money, we talk about time, we talk about what it entails, who's paying for what, that kind of thing. And then once we've agreed that, okay, you're going to hire me for this amount of time, to get that signed. And at that point, then we start moving forward, learning a lot about the patient.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, in all of the process we just went over.
Now, what are the? I mean, I see the benefit absolutely from what happens, but when you're working with families, what tends to be a dynamic with the one person who doesn't see the benefit in this? What is usually what is their thing? Is it an economic thing? Is it a stranger in the house thing? Is it I can do this myself? What is usually the pushback you get, and it's going to be at least that one family member who's going to be the negative one.
Sure. There's always somebody, or usually there is. I would say all of the above, everything you've described. It doesn't always, not all of it in one, but yeah, maybe we brought in the son and he doesn't like having somebody new in the house. So I will try to spend a lot of time with him, getting to know him, allowing him to get to know me, so that I am not considered a stranger in the house.
Which comes back to that relationship connectivity thing.
Exactly. It's all about that.
The comfort zone.
And then if it's more of a financial thing, well, unfortunately, things like this do cost money. Sometimes it gets down to, well, that's my inheritance type thing.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do anything about that. That's up to the person who actually signs the contract.
Yeah.
Because I am a service.
Yeah. Interesting. So when you're hired, you start working with them, you're educating both, again, the person who will eventually meet their destiny, shall we say. You're also working with the family to understand that the destiny is assured.
We're talking about dying.
Yeah,
it's okay to say that.
Yes. But I'm just trying to be polite with it, okay? So as you said, because Americans, we get triggered by death and dying, Yeah. So, but no, with knowing that that's coming and so forth, tell me how, when now we move to the point where it's very soon, very, very soon, do you still play an active role at that point, or at that point have you hopefully gotten the education, they've gotten the education, you've given it, they've gotten it, they received it, and and do you, and therefore they are there, or are you still involved at that point when they are that close to seeing the end?
I can be. It's unfortunately, it comes down to how much time have they contracted me for?
Yeah.
Do they want me there for the entire vigil?
Mm-hmm.
if we've been able to see that it's just a matter of hours, do they want me there, or are they comfortable with it?
Yeah.
Have they learned enough that they feel okay?
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to be there at all.
Right.
I can help them. There are also new things in America which are called green burials. So we will talk about what are their wishes. Are they going to be cremated? Are they going to want a big funeral? Do they want nothing? Are they going to donate their body to, there's all different kinds of things. Mm-hmm. What is it that they are going to have? There's also something called a green burial. The body of the person who has died does not have to be removed from the home for 3 days. Now, people...
Is that state by state, or is that in general throughout the country?
I have to look it up. I don't think it's by state.
Mm-hmm.
But I honestly don't know the answer to that. I'd have to find out. I never thought about that. But anyway, we're talking about the family's belief. Do they want mom lying there so that other people can come in? It used to be a long time ago, the wake was held at home.
Yeah.
And so people would come in to see them and express their condolences, that kind of thing. And then as commerce came in, then the wakes moved into the funeral homes, so to speak. Doesn't have to be that way. And there are green burials, and that does differ state to state. A green burial, I've seen all kinds of things for green burials. So that's something I think I would discuss personally with the patient. There's all different ways to take care of that. And America is just starting into this process of green burials. Mm-hmm. So it's new.
Yeah, I remember when my mom tells stories from time to time, she's talked about how when she was a kid, her grandmother was laid out in the living room. That was just what the people did back then. And so, that body was in the living room for days, and it scared the crap out of her because, that was what, but that's her first initial conversation with, her first initial opportunity to understand and learn about death and dying was her grandmother in her front room,
And it's all about how you present it to children. Mm-hmm. If you're comfortable with what's going on, then they're going to sense that and be comfortable. If they see everybody just sobbing, they're going to, why? What's happened? What's going on? Why is everybody so upset? And that creates fear.
Yeah.
And so, then that starts the whole thing about how death is scary. Mm-hmm. Instead of it's just part of the process.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it is, because again, we put such a mystique around it in this country, and the truth is we don't get out of life alive.
It's one of the givens,
Exactly. It's from the day we're born, we know that there will be an inevitability on the other side of that. So right. It's interesting. Well, as we find ourselves winding down that clock, is there, of all the takeaways that and there's so many things on this topic. I mean, I'm blown away by and I've experienced, I think I've experienced the loss of my father, and we had hospice care, and he had brain cancer, and after 2 different remissions and then coming back and then it happening again, he's like, I don't want any additional treatment. I don't want anything else. It was hard for my mom. It was very hard for my mom to, even though he had told her, I don't want extraordinary cares. I don't want anything else. I can't do this again. I don't want to. We had to fight with her to help her understand and remember when he was healthy, when he was of sound mind last, and he had the 2, even after he come through the second one, he's like, I don't want to do this again. I will not do this again. And when she was in the hospital at one point, he told her, he said, now you understand how I felt and how I feel. And so please remember that should this come back, I do not and will not do this again. And that was his choice. And it was difficult for us as the family to bring her around, because they were
her husband.
Yeah, they were short 60 years. They were a month away from 60 years together. And so, we had to work with her and help bring her around to the fact that it's not her choice. And that, yes, she would love to have him, but no matter what she does, she can't hold on to him, because again, of the unique brain cancer that he had, the ultimate would have happened no matter what. The question is how much time, and his quality of life was important, and he no longer saw that. And so there was no value to it. So he did not want to proceed. So having gone through that, again, there's so many topics and so many things that would in my mind think about how we could wrap this up, but I don't think that's my job. I think I'm going to leave it to you to tell folks of all the things that are important to understand. What's the takeaway from this conversation and from what you do, and why it is so important to employ someone like you to help the family with this?
I would say the most important thing that I do is to get everybody to the same point. Everybody needs to be on the same page. That is going to create a much more peaceful and easy passing. I know somebody currently who is losing someone, and until that person's in the hospital, but that they are having to get mom, like you said, for this person on board. And I think that has a lot to do with how come that hasn't occurred yet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so much easier when I can then make sure that the patient's wishes are held.
Mm-hmm.
That then I have to be the strong one and go, I'm sorry, Aunt Lucy, but they don't want that. They only want one or two people at the bedside at a time.
Yeah.
So we're going to do what they wanted. And I have to enforce that.
Yeah. Bonnie, if somebody is looking for this service, how can they reach out to you and help you and bring you into their situation? What's the best way to reach you?
Well, my company is called Calling on Angels 1111. So they just merely need to give me an email at callingonangels1111@gmail.com. And then if they give me a phone number, I can contact them.
Super. And folks, I will put this information in the description. So if you look under the description of this video, you will find Bonnie's contact information. And then again, don't hesitate to reach out to her. Thank you so much, Bonnie, for spending your time with me today and sharing this. I think folks needed to hear this. And again, this is something that, again, like you said, we tend to avoid in this country because that tough conversation can be tough, but it's needed. It's so needed.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it really is. Coming to peace with it, because like you said, we're all going to go through it. Exactly.
Well, with that said, I think we'll be out of here. So until the next one, folks, please don't forget to hit that like, share, subscribe, and follow button. And then, of course, reach out to Bonnie should you need her services. With that said, we're going to go. Thank you again, Bonnie. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Don.